Good evening. My talk tonight is about my personal cycling journey and how it has intersected in other parts of my life, and in the most unexpected ways. I have loved cycling since I learned how to ride. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of myself as a child on a bicycle, so this will have to do. By the time I was 9, when this picture was taken, I already owned my own bike, I was regularly riding it to school, and I was allowed to ride to my grandparents, who lived a few kilometers away. My family moved to Coquitlam in 1967 when I was 11, and that was a time when there was no bus service in Coquitlam. My bicycle provided me mobility, freedom, and independence. Then, in my late teens, I transitioned to using and owning a car, as that was the expected thing to do. I followed the North American rite of passage into adulthood, and my bicycle was left to collect dust. In my late teens, I also had to accept that I was gay. I eventually got over that, and in my early 20s, I moved into the West End and embraced being gay. I brought my bike with me that I had as a teenager and started riding again. My old love was rekindled, and eventually I sold my car as I was using it less and less, and it seemed to be costing more and more. The 1980s were an exciting time to be a young gay man in the West End, as the cultural norms and expectations around sexuality were changing. HIV made them scary times also. This combination facilitated an efficient or an effective activist community that was aware politically and media savvy. That experience was transformational to me, as it made me realize that most social expectations were structured to benefit the privileged and the mostly white male power elite. Ironically, that was my demographic. I also realized that cultural norms and expectations can shift quickly and unexpectedly. My skepticism of mainstream media and politics related to gay culture also applied to cycling. I was very conscious of our auto-centric society and how pedestrians, cyclists, and transit users were getting a raw deal. I found an acceptance at the intersection of my gay circle and cycling circle that I did not encounter in my other life intersections. Eventually, my connections in the gay community introduced me to transportation cycling advocacy. This led me to serve as the chair of the Bicycle Advisory Committee for the City of Vancouver in the early 1990s. The time as chair of the Bicycle Advisory Committee was an exciting period for me. I met lots of interesting people, I learned how local government operates, and I also learned a lot about cycling. I quickly learned that managing media was critical, and to give media interviews. I learned I cannot say the city engineer is lying. That burns bridges. My favorite quote from that time was responding to a reporter who asked, what was my thought on the Vancouver Indy races? To which I replied, the Indy races glorify the 4 killers: alcohol, tobacco, speed, and men. Since the 1990s, both cycling and queer rights have come a long way. However, cycling has still not had a same-sex marriage success. As such, it could be useful for cycling advocates to look at the factors that led to that success. I believe the battle for same-sex marriage was won when Wall Street determined it was good for business. There was no industry that benefited from the status quo. Just imagine a politician justifying their opposition to same-sex marriage to Tim Cook, the openly gay CEO of Apple. The situation for cycling is different. The auto sector is a significant component of Wall Street and is a major customer of media. Advocates need to focus on other strategies, and fortunately there are a couple. One is leveraging the intersection with other communities. This includes the health sector, the environmental movement, social justice activists. These are powerful and useful allies. There are a lot more. Diversity is good. The other opportunity is utilizing media. For this, we need to be creative because of the conflict media has with the auto industry. Again, it's useful to look to the queer community for tactics and inspiration as they face worse barriers with the media. To this, I have a story that I hope will provide encouragement. This picture was taken on January 12, 1992, which was the public opening of the Cascade Connector. This project had done a terrible job of accommodating cyclists and pedestrians. Cycling advocates were angry at the time. To put this day in context, the social credit government who had championed this project had just lost the election 3 months before. Mike Harcourt, a former mayor of Vancouver, was now the new NDP premier. The coordinators of the public opening made a fatal mistake of placing the stage for officials inside the tunnel. Perhaps this was to shelter it from the rain. The acoustics, however, were fantastic for bicycle bells. I can still hear those bells. That opening signaled a paradigm shift at the BC Ministry of Transportation and Highways. You could see it in the eyes of the ministry officials and the project managers. The opening ceremony had turned into a public relations disaster. The pedestrian cycling upgrades followed soon thereafter. I want to finish off with another story of my love for cycling that led to me to my husband, Joey L'Esperance. I knew he was a transportation cyclist when we first started going out, and he said he was attracted to me because of my cycling activism. We both also love cycling tourism, and this continues to be our passion and what really makes us happy together. This picture is from a couple of years ago on the Loire Valley at Chateau Chambord. Really, can life get any better than this? Thank you for hearing my story today.